Pleased to be joined by Jaguars wide receiver coach Chris Jackson during this bye week Wednesday. Coach, I know you guys just got off the field. How are we doing on this fine Wednesday, Chris?
We're doing great.
Love it. Love it. Great to hear. Obviously, a disappointing result on Sunday out in Kansas City. But for what seems like another week in a row, you have 9 different guys who caught passes for the Jaguars this past weekend. That's been a pretty consistent trend throughout the course of this year. 10 games in, Coach Jackson, how would you evaluate your wide receiver core?
I would say I thought they played very well up to this point. I think the way that our offense is most successful is when the ball is spread around, where Travis is getting the ball in the backfield. Our backs are doing their thing, making explosive runs, and then off of that comes the play-action passes, which I thought between the guys have done a great job presenting themselves for Trevor. I think they made plays. We're not perfect by no means, and there's still room to grow, but in regards to them kind of sharing the wealth and understanding like the genetic makeup of this team, I think they're doing a great job on all doing their part.
Now, Coach, how has the maturation process been going on since what you've seen in training camp to where you are now? Is there communications between Trevor and the wide receivers on what they see, whether they're playing zone or whether they're playing man, to where they can get open? How has that relationship been built?
I would say more so with certain individuals, and what I mean by that is let's take Marv, for instance. You know, Marv doesn't have as many choice routes or read routes. Marv is going to be your outside guy who's your vertical threat, who's going to run your dagger routes, your dig routes, presenting his big body and his catch radius, which he's done a great job thus far, kind of when we needed him in those realms. Same thing kind of with Zay, where Zay has a couple option routes to where he can either sit and work out. So to your question, Zay a little bit, I think there's been some conversation between him and Trevor, but I would say most of that kind of boils down to Trevor and Christian, just because Christian up to this point has been our choice route runner, meaning you could break out, break in, or sit. So I think those two are doing a great job communicating as in regards to what they see, what coverage they're getting on that particular play, and how they react to it. So I think for the most part, all of them are doing a good job communicating.
We're talking with Chris Jackson, wide receivers coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, came from the Bears to join Doug Peterson and his staff. And I love Marvin. And when you think about it, Coach, he's the only holdover. All those other guys are newbies to Trev, and maybe Jamal Agnew just learning how to be more of a wide receiver. What about Trevor's growth this year as you've seen it from the wide receiver room?
I think Trevor's done a phenomenal job communicating in regards to like what he sees and how he expects us as wide receivers to come out of the breaks, whether it be like a dig route on a 20-yard comeback, how we're coming out of our in routes. I think he's doing a great job on just telling the guys what he sees, how he sees it, and how he expects us to come out. So the communication is there. Trevor's is growing every week in and week out. We got to do our job. I tell our guys all the time, man, especially versus zone defenses, it's not about winning our one-on-one matchups. It's about being what we're supposed to be, presenting ourselves accordingly to Trevor. And again, I think we've done that for the most part, but there's certain areas that we still need to continue to get better. It's not only his maturation process, it's also ours as well. So we got to kind of mature together.
Chris, you played under Mike Leach at Wazoo in 2014. Do you see principles of the air raid filtering into the NFL now? Do you see it more and more?
I did not play for Mike Leach, but
you did. That's right. I'm reading on your bio; it says so. So, okay. All right.
I played for Mike Price, which was very similar in regards.
So
to
that must have been 04. Okay.
98. Oh, you're giving me credit, man. I'm a little older than
I am. I'm telling you right now, on the Jaguars site, it says 2014, so I don't know. And you look very young, so I'll give you credit there.
I think there's a place for the spread offense. Like if you see where we do really good at the end of the last couple halves, where we've had to kind of get in 2-minute mode. That's the best way I can kind of explain that spread offense is to where, it's spread out. It's a 3-by-1 or it's a 2-by-2. Everyone knows what they're running, how they run it, and the quarterback knows exactly where he wants to go with the ball depending on the defense. So that's the best way I can explain, the air raid or the spread offense comes into play in the NFL. Now, we didn't have as much, 21 personnel, the runs, and the 2 tight end sets in college. So that's a lot different because you need that balance in the NFL. So if we can kind of match bigger bodies with bigger bodies and be successful, we'll do that. If we need to spread it out and go 3 wide receivers with a tight end in the back, then we do that. So I think it's a combination and a balance of just using it all to our advantage.
Couple more for Chris Jackson, wide receivers coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chris, I've discussed this with a couple members of the coaching staff. Obviously, at 3-7, this team isn't where it wants to be right now. 6 one-possession losses throughout the course of the first 10 weeks of the season. But at the same time, a lot of you guys, when you came in, when you signed up to coach under Doug, so many of you guys said that this was going to be a process. This was not an overnight fix. So I'm just curious in terms of where you expected this team to be, where they are, frustration, maybe praise for where you guys are. How would you evaluate where you guys are currently when you first took the job where Doug expected you to be?
I would say in regards to my expectations coming in here, they're not far off from where we're at. I think we've done some good things. I think we've moved the ball. I think times that our wide receivers have been asked to kind of do their part, I think they have. I like the production in regards to where our receivers are and the growth of Trevor and the relationship between them. So we're not far off. The only thing that does not match from a production standpoint is just the wins and losses, unfortunately. So I think we've proven that we're a top 10 offense in the NFL. We just need to get the win-loss category to kind of fit kind of the team that we put on that field. And we're going to continue to grow. I think there's some things that we've shot ourselves in the foot in regards to the red zone in a few games where we've had some turnovers in the low red zone, which, that changes everything. That changes a couple wins here and a couple wins there. So we just got to continue growing, maturing together, just growing as we're a very young team. So I guess to answer your question, I'm happy where we're at. I think we're exactly where I thought we would be. I mean, with the addition of Christian Kirk and Zay, I think they both bring their strengths. You add Marv, who was a holdout from last year. We're doing some great things. We just need to continue to get better and just not get complacent.
Hey, Chris, there's a couple different viewpoints of what happened in that first drive in the third quarter down at the goal line with the legal man downfield. Can you walk us through that play, exactly what happened and what it was?
It was just an RPO, run pass read, and Trevor made the right call with pulling the ball as the end kind of scraped down the line of scrimmage. And once Trevor pulled it, that's one thing that you get in this league. Sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't. But, when you talk about an RPO, it's a run play to the offensive line. So, they're going to go do their job and block accordingly. And sometimes if that ball doesn't get out from a timing perspective, we get caught with an illegal man downfield. But it was done everything to plan, so that's just something that we got to get better at and make sure that we're just more aware of those situations.
Now, Coach, you've been in that locker room. I mean, you lost a lot of close games. I mean, is there still confidence? Is there still a culture of winning and preparedness within this team, even though they've lost a couple of close ones where they felt like y'all should have won?
I would say yes. I think this team, they take their losses very hard. I think they're also aware when we get back in here on Monday and we go through the clips and the film, they do see how talented we are, especially, and I'm not speaking defensively, I'm just speaking offensively. We moved the ball up against some of the great defenses we played this year. I mean, you put Denver up there in regards to one of the top 5 defenses that we moved the ball against them. We've consistently done that against every team we played. It's just a matter of just kind of tightening up in certain areas and kind of limiting those bonehead plays, man. It's just 1 or 2 plays that kind of just either take some momentum, swing some momentum, or just take the ball out of our hands. So our team recognizes that and from an offensive perspective. So I think to answer your question, they're all on board. They're locked in. They know we're very talented. It's just we need to kind of start learning how to figure out how to win those games. It's a young group, and we just got to learn together. We got to just pull through and come out on the winning end on some of those close games.
Now, Coach, I've been in those locker rooms. I've been on this team in '96 when we started at 3-7, and I think we were able to turn things around because guys on the team just got pissed off. I mean, is there anybody? I mean, you just got pissed off and just say, "Hey, listen, enough is enough. Enough of losing games in the fourth quarter. Enough of the mistakes and penalties and turnovers. And let's go out and win the freaking ball game." I mean, is there any sense of that from the coaching staff or any of the guys on the team that are just totally just frustrated by the fact that you've been losing a lot of close games, especially in the fourth quarter?
I would say yes. I know the coaching staff is dead on that. We understand, like, we need to pull some of those games out. And, you know, we bust our butts, man, like week in and week out in regards to preparation and putting these players in the best position we can. And we're close. We're right there. So, yes, we're pissed as a coaching staff, and I think a lot of the players are pissed as well because, you know, again, we're right there, and it's always one or two things that are preventing us from pulling off those games, whether it be just defense getting a stop, offense finishing, or maybe special teams putting us in better positions. So I think right now, to be honest with you, waiting to see who those alpha dogs from an offensive perspective, you know, who's going to set themselves apart from everybody else, who's going to be that leader, who's going to be pissed, who's going to get them to jump on ship and to lock in and to call people out, you know, to make them accountable when things aren't going right, you know, where I think we're still learning that, to be honest with you. So I think as we kind of get back here, get away from football and then come back after that bye week, I think that's a big thing is who's going to be that alpha dog that steps up and demands us to be great and to make this push here because 3-7, we're not out of it right now, especially the way that we've lost these games. No one else in the NFL has lost the way we have. So I think we just need to buy in. We need to make sure we get those dogs to step up once we get back. They need to hold everybody accountable, and we just need to go. We just need to go. We just, like Coach says all the time, all he knows is how to work and work. So we're going to come back here. We're going to put our head down and we're going to work.
I think all of Duval loves hearing that. Real quick before we turn you loose, Chris, Coach Chris Jackson, wide receivers coach, in the bio before, it made you a much younger man. So I'm going to ask you about this one. Were you part of the Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship?
Yes, I was.
And,
all right.
And I would just love for you to speak on that just for a quick second, because a lot was brought up with Jeff Saturday being appointed in interim last week. And all I know is that, you know, guys like you're busting your arse just to make sure that you learn as much as you possibly can. So how important is it to have that Bill Walsh Diversity Fellowship that's been formed?
That was awesome. Just in the sense that, you know, there's very few job opportunities, you know, especially in this NFL and especially when you do not have the history of coaching in this league. So that's your only way in. So I remember I had a great relationship with Matt Nagy, who I played arena football with for 3 years and who is a personal friend of mine. And I know when he got the head job in Chicago, you know, he had mentioned, he goes, "I'm going to get your foot in the door." And he says, once I get your foot in the door, he goes, the rest is going to be on you. But I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to make sure I get you in here on that internship. And I took full advantage of that in 2018. I started off on the defensive side of the ball, working with Deshae Townsend in Chicago, who is now our secondary and our pass game coordinator here in Jacksonville. So it was a great way for me just to kind of learn all the details, all the nuances that goes on behind the scene, because it's a 3-hour game, but there's so many hours during the week that goes on in regards to game planning and relationship with coaching and kind of detailing everything out. So I got to learn all the backside of things. Now, I worked some long hours, and it prepared me exactly for the position I'm in now. So I'm forever grateful for Matt giving that opportunity for me. And if I didn't go through that internship, like, I wouldn't have had any idea on really the relationships, the time, the effort, the energy, everything that goes on behind the scenes just to make a 3-hour game on Sundays work.
I love that. I love that.
Real quick before we let you go, Chris, because I'm not sure if you're familiar, but what we have here at 1010XL, we call it the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures, so our listeners can submit thoughts about how we're doing as hosts, but also questions for our various guests on the program. And a couple of them are wondering if you're able to at all speak on Calvin Ridley and the acquisition and what he could mean for this team last year. You know, anything that you can illuminate for us on what he can bring to the Jaguars.
I can't speak a whole lot on that just because I haven't had a conversation with him, nor can I. But it's from what I know about him, I know he is a great pro. I know he's a great route runner. And I think if you put those two, you know, which what he's able to bring to the table is going to be great. But again, I can't really speak until, you know, he's in the building and we get to see that kind of live. But that's really all I can say on that one.
Listen, good stuff, Coach. Man, we really appreciate it. Continued hard work, and it sounds like there's a lot of success that could be ahead. Appreciate your time for sure.
Hey, thank you for having me, guys.